Hi everyone, Sam here at Model Chili Scale Models, back with a rather interesting little model kit here. This is the natural selection from the 3-body problem from a company called Orange Cat Industry, and this particular ship is from the 3-body problem, the books, not from the Netflix TV series. I don't think the story in that series is quite up to this point yet, but so minor spoiler if you've been following that TV series, but yeah, I think this ship makes an appearance later on. Yeah, I just saw this online and I thought it looked like a really interesting and detailed model kit, so I thought I'd ship it in and check it out. I believe it's like a Bandai style pushed together fit, and it's got some LEDs for lighting at the back for the engines. And yeah, so hopefully it'll be quite a nice size, packed with detail as you can see. It just looks like a really nicely manufactured model kit. So yeah, that's the box. Quite a chunky box and weighs quite a bit, so let's have a look inside. Yep, packed with plastic. So we've got quite a number of sprues by the looks of it. Lots of small parts. And I'll just have a quick glance at these before we crack into it. A few clear parts there. So it doesn't look like there's any like main big structure for the ship. Just lots of little bits put together. Yep, I have no idea what any of these parts are. I'm not really familiar with the 3-body problem books. I have seen the TV series, but that's about as far as my knowledge goes. Yep, just bags of plastic stand, which is good. Always love a nice little building project. And I think this is a bit of electronics for the LEDs. We'll have a closer look at these parts once I start construction. This looks like engine bits. A few decals, little decal sheet. Nice little metal plaque for the stand. Natural selection. And the instruction book. Which I think... well, yeah, so it's not actually in English or Chinese, it's just numbers and arrows. So that's handy. Yeah, a little bit of Chinese here and there, but if it's anything like Bandai instructions, it should be pretty straightforward. Nice little centerfold artwork there. Yeah, so I'm thinking the construction will be fairly simple, even though it is quite detailed. Just like a big Lego kit really, or a small one. There's a decal guide at the back. Nice little diagram of the ship there. Alright, looking good so far. So let's get into it. Alright, so step 1. There is a lot of sprues, as you can see here. But each step of the instructions tells you which sprues you need for each particular step. So I've got all of those laid out now. And what I'm going to do is just start cutting out the bits for each sub-assembly, clean them up, and then put them together. And then get an idea about what sort of things I want to paint or not paint. Yeah, the way some of these parts are fitting together is really satisfying. Just the different geometries and angles and all the fits. It's coming together really nicely. But as I suspected, it's really probably not a good idea to paint over this and then try to repaint it all again. Some of these really sharp lines and that pieces that fit together. So yeah, I'm not going to be doing an overall coat, I don't think, but I'll think about how to paint this and detail it up a bit later. I mean, even inside these parts where those black pieces went, that's just not going to be easily achievable if I just blast this with a primer and then start from scratch. So I think I'm just going to use the colours provided and work around that. Alright, so that's the front section done, and the instructions call this the bow assembly. But nothing else to explain what all of these parts do. I'm assuming these swiveling bits here are weapons or point defense or something. And all of the multicoloured parts are looking quite nice on there. So the next section is this ring section, which is called the weapons ring. Alright, so that's the weapons ring completed, and we've got a few moving parts. There's opening doors all around the circumference of the ring to reveal, it's a little bit fiddly, reveal some kind of weapon banks housed in there. Kind of look like Lego bricks. Quite funny. So all of these open up I'm not sure if these are like missiles or some kind of projectiles. Kind of reminds me of submarines opening to launch their nukes. So yeah, that's all gone together quite well. And this will just clip back. There's just like a tiny little tab in there you can see that clicks into a little slot in the side of that piece. So that's that little clicking sound to keep them shut. Right, so the next step is this habitation module. And that's the cabin modules, or the habitation spheres, assembled. And now moving on to what the instruction calls the supply module. So maybe this is cargo, and then on to the energy module. So maybe this is engineering or power production. And there's those modules complete. In this particular ring here, these panels here can be swapped out, so you can pull these off and swap in for a version of the panel which all of the doors are opened to reveal more weapons, I assume. So you can just swap out all of those or just mix and match. And these can swivel there. So just another bit of functionality. And now moving on to the rear engine section. And the first step is to just test the batteries on this LED board. So I've got the 3 batteries installed there. And then that slots into here. And then you test it or turn it on by just touching this magnet onto the board and hold it for about 3 seconds, I think it says. Let's try and get that. It's there. There you go. So they're all working fine. So now I just need to install this board into the kit. And so this kit actually provides a couple of options. If you want to go the lit LED way, you use this unit here, which houses the LED board and the battery unit, or you can just go with the non-light option, which is a more accurate and detailed section without all of the electronics. You can kind of see the difference there. Interesting, they provide this separate piece, but it has a lot of shared units, pieces that attach to both, so you can't really swap them in and out without sacrificing some pieces. So definitely going with the LED version. And now to apply these supplied stickers, which just acts as a backing for some parts that stick onto the end of these cylinders. And that's because these parts here you can see through, so it's just a bit of internal detail in there. And for these engine nozzle parts, there's a little clear bit that went in the back there that helps transmit the LEDs. So there you can see that detail of the sticker coming through nicely. And now for the part that houses the battery, there's actually a separate little disc that you attach the sticker to, and then insert that into the back of the orange piece. So for the magnet switch, there's a little plastic housing that you slot the magnet into, and in theory you should just be able to touch the back of the switch through the plastic with this magnet and the lights should turn on. But I've been trying this a few times and it's just not working. I'm not quite sure what's happening, but the lights were working before and now they're not, so that's fun. But I will troubleshoot that and see what's going on. And now I just need to fix on the last parts for the engine module. Alright, so I stripped it all back just to get to it close as the switch as possible. Took all these parts off, tried the magnet, tried flipping it around a couple of times, tried a stronger magnet on the back of this, made sure I got the right position where the switch is, and just nothing. I took the batteries out, rehoused the batteries. It's really bizarre, it was working perfectly just before, and now nothing. It's not like I've messed with the electronics or anything, it's all housed inside that plastic frame. So I have no idea what's happening here. A little bit disappointing, but oh well. Moving on. And now just to attach more weapons to the weapons ring, which the instructions has you do right at the end for some reason. And now with all of the major sub-assemblies done, it's time to start putting it all together. So following the instructions, it's the supply module, clips into there. Then the energy module there, and the engines at the back. There's a D-shaped hole and a D-shaped peg, so you get the right alignment in there. And then the weapons ring, which goes this way. There's a little arrow just inside the innermost ring to tell you which orientation it goes. And then the bow piece. And done. So most of the modules are rotating, so we've got the back one there, which is quite loose. There's the supply module rotates, and then the weapons ring also rotates around. It's just the bow piece, the engines, and the habitation module are fixed. And so that fits onto the stand. I think it goes in here. Oh yeah. So it's there nicely. Alright. Oh, there was one other moving part which I didn't even realise until after I'd put it all together, and I was reading some of the instructions, which tells you quite later on, but these grey little housing pieces here can actually shift back to reveal some inner workings. Not quite sure what is in there, whether they're like retro thrusters or more weapons. But yeah, I didn't even realise that was a thing. So that's pretty cool. And of course we've got the missile bays around the ring. And of course there's the more weapons beast mode, which fit onto the energy ring there. So yeah, lots to play with. And the best thing about this kit is that I can just pull it all apart again, ready for some painting. So as I said, I'm not going to do an overall coat over everything. I don't want to lose all of this intricate colouring with the orange and all the greys. So I'm just going to pull it apart and pick out some bits and pieces to detail paint, and then give it an overall clear coat, put some decals on, maybe a little bit of weathering, and then hopefully we're done. Alright, so to start the painting process, I'm going to pull everything apart again. Now, one of the advantages of not having much reference material for this ship is that I get to use quite a bit of artistic license. So I'm just going to apply colours that I think will add or enhance or just look interesting on various parts. So for example, this gunmetal coloured ring in the middle here, I'm going to add a little bit more lighter silver colours and try a little bit of gunmetal paint. So I'm just going to be using Vallejo Model Air Chrome gunmetal, and I've also got this model colour Oily Steel, just to try out different colours, and they're all just going to be brush painted on. Right, so that's those sections done, and now for the inner ring, what I'm going to do is try and highlight all of the raised lines there. So I'm just going to get that oily steel and dry brush it on. So get some on the end of a brush and then just wipe off most of the paint, and then just brush over these raised sections. This colour might be a little bit too dark, but I'll give this a go, and then could always lighten it up with a different colour. Yeah, I think that was a little bit too dark, so I'm just going back to that chrome that I used before. And just running this around. Yeah, that's a bit better. Brings it out a little bit more. Alright, so that's all of those silver compartments done. I did a little bit of gunmetal just on some of these supporting struts in there as well. And now what I'm doing is applying just a little bit of grey panel work using Vallejo Model Air Light Gull Grey, which is a very similar grey to the base plastic. And I'm just going to pick out some panels, and it's going to be quite subtle, but hopefully enough to stand out a little bit, just to give a bit of variation in all of this grey. Right, so that's all of those panels done, and I also applied the same grey just to some little spots around the ring on both sides there. So it's subtle, but your eye kind of picks up a little bit. And I'm now going to use that same grey to detail up some panels on these habitation modules. So I've applied the grey panelling to all of the different areas of the ship. So there's the supply module there. Done a little bit of panelling on the front there, and a bit of panelling on the engine section. Now I think what I need to do next to help inform what other panelling or other detailed paint I want to do is just start to apply a wash to bring out some of this detail and make it look a little bit less flat and plastic-like. So I'm going to apply this Vallejo light grey wash, and I'm not going to be too heavy with it, but I just want to get it in all of the recessed areas, and then I'm going to be cleaning it up once it starts to dry, just because I don't want it to look too dirty. I'm kind of of the opinion that really large ships, I mean, I don't actually know how big this ship is, but it looks big. The bigger a ship is, the less wash it should have, because when you're viewing a big ship from like arm's length, scale-wise, you shouldn't really see a lot of intricate detail. It should all just start to fade away. I mean, think of Star Destroyers or the original Battlestar Galactica. They were very flat and pale. So I think if you add too much wash, bring out too much of that panelling detail in those types of model kits, you start to make it look too small. It scales it down way too much. But then there's the argument that you need to make an interesting looking model. You can't just have it flat. So it's a balance. So anyway, I'm just going to apply this here and then clean up a lot of the flat areas and just hopefully leave the wash and the recessed parts. And I'm going to just apply this to the rest of the kit. So here especially, I really want to bring out some of these lines, which may even be windows or portholes or something. Now that the wash has had plenty of time to dry, I'm just going to clean up all of the excess just with a bit of water on a cotton bud. And because this is a water-based wash and it's on the plastic, just wipe away quite easily. And now we're left with a much more detailed looking piece, a little bit weathered, a little bit distressed, and all that detail is popping out nicely. So now to move on to cleaning up the rest of it. So here's how it's looking so far. It's had a few applications of wash, cleaned up a little bit, and it's yeah, the details popping up quite a bit more now. I think before more weathering or painting, I need to start putting down some decals. So there's got a few just tiny little markings here and there, a bit of text markings and just other shapes. So I'll just apply those around the ship. And now with the decals applied and set, I'm just going to apply a little bit of Microsol, which is a decal setting solution, just to help them settle into the plastic and it thins them down a little bit. And now to seal in all the decals, I'm going to give them a dusting of Mission Models Flat Clear. Now for a bit of detail painting, I'm going to cap all of these silos with some red. And so there's all the red added to those, and also put a few red spots where there's other weapons as well. Now for the engine section, I've just put on a few little silver spots there just to highlight some of that detail. And now for the back, I'm just going to do a bit of light dry brushing just in the engine nozzles, just to bring out some of this detail. Alright, so here it is, all finished up, and that's been a really enjoyable build. The construction was pretty fun, and it was kind of nice to weather it up and put all the markings and all the details on it. And yeah, it only took a couple of days worth of work, so it's a nice quick project, something you don't really have to spend a lot of time messing around with. And even just leaving it just constructed and no painting or anything, it still looked pretty detailed. Yeah, I'm really happy with how it's come out. It's a real shame about the lights not working in the end. I did go back and completely stripped it and pulled out the board itself just to make sure the switch wasn't being blocked by too much plastic, and yeah, it's just not working at all. I haven't ruled out the possibility that the batteries may have died for some reason, but I mean, they're like $3 each. I'm not going to go buy 3 more of them again. It's just a little gimmick anyway. It doesn't really matter in the long run. But yeah, everything else went really well. The fit and the construction is perfect. Pretty much Bandai quality level, I reckon. And yeah, it's an interesting design. You can't really get much use out of the rotation of the rings because I've kind of painted and weathered it up. It's got a little bit more stiff rotating it there. Yeah, just a little bit of movement, and yeah, it's kind of neat having all the different moving compartments and the missile bays, of course. And there, nice little hidden detail. And we'll just get a nice close look at some of the details. There, habitation spheres came out quite nice. Got some nice little decals on the back, warning markings for the engines. Let the wash pool a little bit near the engines just to indicate a bit of scorching and carbon build-up there. And I didn't really do much painting around this front section, just a couple of little red dots for the end, and I just left that metal piece, just the silver off the plastic. But yeah, I ordered this in from China from AliExpress, and I haven't really seen it advertised anywhere else. So if you're looking to get one of these, maybe try there, just get it straight from China. Quite an interesting kit. And I hope you've enjoyed the build. So let me know what you think in the comments, and stick around for more interesting builds to come. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.